Your power wasn't in getting them back. You haven't got anything to prove to anyone. The fact that they didn't come back doesn't mean anything. Your power is the ability that you have got and the ability that you have had to be able to walk away from somebody that you loved so deeply, and yet you have learned how to unlove them. You've learned how to detach. Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of Coming Up for Air with myself, Lou. I hope we're all okay. I have just glanced down at my feet, and I know that my feet don't actually get in the shot, but I fake tanned last night, and I think it's just taken to my feet a little bit more than it has the rest of my body. So I have ultra tanned feet, and I have my new lighting in the studio. Today I finally settled on some good lighting. This is great lighting, so much better than my ring light. It's absolutely huge. If you follow me on my Instagram, I will have posted a picture of it yesterday with the setup that's going on in this studio right now. So much better than my ring light. I'm so much more happy with the tone. It's so difficult trying to actually find things that are going to look good, and you know that they look good as well. And so for the time being, when I haven't got loads of money to be spending on a nice snazzy camera, the snazzy camera is actually being researched, so then I can actually see what is being recorded, because I'm so nervous about my phone cutting out. I have to have a mirror behind my screen so I can see the camera rolling over. But yeah, new lighting, and it has made my feet look astronomically brown, so tanned. So yeah, hopefully I don't need to get my feet out this weekend, because it is bank holiday weekend, and it's obviously been quite a long time for everybody that has worked since Christmas to actually get some time off. So it's is it the longest weekend in the UK at the moment, this weekend, because I think everyone has the Friday off and everyone has the Monday off, I think. Don't quote me on that. So a lovely, nice long weekend, to which the weather is hideous. I was supposed to be going down south this weekend, which is something that I'm going to be talking about on my Patreon this week. I swore blind that I would never, ever be able to step back foot in Newquay. However, I am feeling some form of draw to go, and I don't really know why. And it just came over me the other week. I was like, do you know what? I actually really miss Newquay. I really miss Watergate Bay. I miss being by the beach. I miss being in Cornwall. And like I said, I'm going to go into it on my Patreon. If you've followed me through my entire journey and listened to all the episodes on my podcast, you will know that Newquay was a very, very quite sentimental place to me and my ex. We went there a lot. We spent a lot of time there, and he bought a holiday home down there that he was doing up whilst we were going through the breakup. We bought it pre-breakup, and he was doing it up whilst we were going through the breakup, and I was there when they bought the house. I was there with the viewings. I was taken to the viewings to get my opinion on it. My dad was in on it, and I never ever got to experience it. And I think that kind of went into a lot of the grief that I went through with grieving the loss of my relationship and my future and stuff. I'd also planned a lot down there. I'd planned a lot with taking our children down there, and taking my nieces and my nephews and my family down there, and it never transpired. So I think I felt a lot of loss around that area, but for some reason, and do you know what? I am so happy that this has happened, because I was sad about it, but for some reason, I just feel drawn to go there. And if there's one thing that I have learned through my whole breakup experience, is to trust my gut, not on just bad things, but on good things as well. If my gut is telling me to do something, I'm absolutely going to do it. I'm going to be skeptical about why I'm feeling like I want to do it, but I am going to do it. I was really looking forward to having a weekend somewhere where it was busy, because a lot of the time when you are working or like you work for yourself and stuff, you have the advantage of taking time off whenever, but it's actually quite nice to go somewhere during, say, like the Easter holidays, where there is going to be a lot of tourists and there is going to be a lot of people, especially if you're going somewhere by yourself. So I was quite looking forward to going to Newquay and spending the weekend in Newquay, and you know, the sun's out today and it would have been perfect if the weather was going to stay like this all weekend, but it's not. It's literally going to rain everywhere else but the Midlands. And so I'm going to stay at home this weekend, because if there's something that I'm not going to do, it's I'm not going to chase the rain down the country and end up sitting on the beach in the rain for my weekend. So we're going to put Newquay on the back burner, but like I said, it's something that I'm going to talk about on my Patreon. So if you have got a sentimental place that you have with your ex, or you're thinking, oh, I could never go back there, I could never visit that place if it's abroad or whatever, please go and listen to the episode that I'm going to put out on my Patreon as well today, because it has been a long time feeling like this, and I never ever thought that I would ever go back there. And you can hear it in a couple of my episodes where I'm talking about never going back there and never wanting to go back there. So yeah, it will be a nice episode to listen to if you are feeling that same way. So yeah, I'm staying local this weekend. So got lots to do, lots to get through. I've got the next 2 weeks to launch something new, completely change my Instagram content, to record new content. And when I said to my dad the other day, I was like, I've given myself 2 weeks. And he was like, oh, what are you doing in those 2 weeks? And I was like, building. And he was like, what? Literally building. I am building. That is all I'm doing in the next 2 weeks. I am basically putting my head down, blocking the noise out. And I've recently found that I'm very productive when I leave the house. So I have found some nice coffee shops that I can go and work in and go and edit in. And obviously, a lot of the time I can't leave the house because I'm recording content and I need to be here. But yeah, I've got different forms of content that I need to try and get over Cringe Mountain to be able to record. And Cringe Mountain is one of those things that people think that they're never going to get over. I didn't ever think I was going to get over Cringe Mountain, but I feel like I have now, because I've showed up so much online. People don't go like, oh my God, what is she doing now? People are like, oh, that's Lou. Well, I hope people are like, no, that's Lou. Oh, that's what I tell myself in my head. But when you put out new forms of content, Cringe Mountain is an actual thing. Like, it is so real. And it is hard to climb Cringe Mountain and get over Cringe Mountain. So I have been having to, honestly, if you could see my drafts folder of my Instagram, you would laugh, because I'm desperately trying to get over Cringe Mountain, and I've got all these drafts of me like talking into the camera and doing like talking FaceTime, talking heads type thing. And people are like, just show up. And I'm like, I would scare people away if I just showed up. I need to like plan and make myself look a little bit more presentable. But we're getting there with Cringe Mountain on the new forms of content. So if you do follow me on Instagram and you see a new form of content going out there and you think, oh my God, Lou's never done this before, this is a little bit different to what she usually puts out there, I would love your support. I would love a little like, I'd love a little comment, just to help me get over the Cringe Mountain, as I've just put it. So yeah, the next 2 weeks are going to be, oh my God, I'm so conscious of getting my foot in the shot. The next 2 weeks are going to be pretty full on, but I am ready. If there's anything I can do, it is work hard. And if there's anything that I do, it is chase my dreams. And I've really been focusing on stepping into a new version of myself. And you will go through so many versions of yourself during a breakup, and you will go through so many versions of yourself when you are healing. And sometimes I don't sit and realize just how far I have come. I have done episodes on detachment before. I've done a lot of episodes, I think, over on my Patreon on detaching. But I wanted to do a episode on the mental like mindset shift that I kind of still home in on now. And the reason why I still home in on it is because my ex has obviously got a new relationship. He's moving on in his life, and I still talk to people that were involved in both of our lives. And I will always say, and I do, and I know I say this a lot, people do tell me a lot of information and about him still, and I don't know whether it's because they think I want to know, or whether it's because I show up online and I do what I do. And I try and not sit here and say it's because of what I do online. But I don't think the fact that I sit and talk about breakups online really helps people think, oh yeah, she's definitely over her whole breakup. I think people think I sit and wallow in self-pity and wallow in the pain and the grief like every single day still, and I don't. I try not to over explain myself because I think the right people are listening and the wrong people are staying away, which is great. But I still home into this sort of mindset shift that I'm going to talk to you guys about today. Still now when I hear certain things about my ex, because of course our lives are going to move on. My life now I have chose to keep very private. I'm very selective about the people who are in on my life. I'm very, very selective. I have boundaries on what I like people to tell other people. My best friends know to stay quiet when people ask things about me, and my family know the same, because I want to protect my new life as much as possible. Because I think when you show up online and you build something online, people can feel like your whole life's online. And I try and get away from that completely. Like I try and keep my actual life offline as much as possible. And just talk about it when I want to talk about it. And when I feel ready to talk about certain things, I'll talk about certain things. But currently right now, what's helping me move forward in my life is keeping my new life very, very private. My ex has chosen to post a lot online about his relationship. His girlfriend posts online about their relationship. So I do get fed back information. And I think people, when they go through a breakup, the one big question is like, am I ever going to get over this? Am I ever going to be able to hear certain things? And the answer is yes. Like the answer is totally yes. Yes, of course, you're going to be able to hear things and things aren't going to affect you. However, when they do, you can kind of home back into this mindset shift. So that's what I wanted today to be all about. So without further ado, guys, let's get into the episode. So I want you to imagine for a second that you are waking up. It's a new day. The sun's shining through your window. You have just opened your eyes. The first thing you do is not reach for your phone. The first thought on your mind is not your breakup. You are not angry. You are not sad. You do not feel like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders. You are just neutral. Everything is calm. Your life is peaceful. And you actually can't remember a time of when you last woke up and felt the pain of your breakup. That is possible for you. 1000%. How do I know that? Because I've gone through it. And I wake up the happiest version of myself. Granted, if I've not had any sleep or if I've had minimal sleep. I'm not the happiest person on the earth, but I wake up now and I am like the happiest person, and I don't reach for my phone straight away anymore. I was talking to somebody on my Instagram the other day and she was like, I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is check my phone for a message. And I was like, okay, well, put your phone downstairs and buy an alarm clock. I fully support this decision, because nothing will engulf you like that first second of when you open your eyes, you grab your phone and you think, have they messaged? And when they haven't, immediately you start your day off in bed feeling like so low, so emotional and so sad. And I get it. I've been there. I used to put my phone in the kitchen and I bought an alarm clock. And so my alarm clock woke me up. My phone didn't wake me up. My alarm clock woke me up because I was so tired in the morning, because I would have either cried a lot or felt emotionally heavy the day before. I wasn't getting out of bed for love nor money. So I would just lay in bed. And instead of like my phone governing how I felt because there wasn't a message, or there was a message and it was of another girl saying this has happened, or you saw something that your ex had gone away, or something to do with your breakup. Your phone hasn't governed your thoughts straight away. You are in complete control because nothing around you other than you are controlling your thoughts. So it gives you enough time to lay in bed and think, okay, I don't want to be feeling like this. So I'm going to put everything that I'm learning by listening to Lou into practice, by being able to get a hold and a grip of your mindset and the thoughts that are coming in and the thoughts that are passing through and everything that is making you feel the way you feel. You are in control of it because it is just you laying in bed with you. And she messaged me a few weeks ago and she was like, oh my God, I bought an alarm clock and it has completely changed how I feel in the morning because I'm in complete control. And she was like, I get up, I go downstairs. I don't know where she put her phone. I can't remember because there's a couple of people that I've told them to do this to this with. She says, I go downstairs, I make a coffee, I have breakfast, I have a shower. And she said, and I have the calmest mornings because I'm not governed by my phone. And it is so true. And I do this now because I am pretty much governed by my phone. My phone's my work. So sometimes I find myself waking up, first thing I do in the morning is like, oh my God, right. So what's everyone doing today? What are the trends? What are the reels? Has anyone messaged me during the night because of the time zones and blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden I'm governed by my phone again. And so I have recently taken a step back and I leave my phone downstairs so I can actually have a calm morning. And when you're like me and have 1,000 thoughts going through your head, 10,000 business ideas and 14 million things to do on a to-do list, you can overwhelm yourself quite quickly. And so I understand that that's probably what you're doing right now. And it is hard to believe that you could ever be that person that I've just told you to imagine that you are. It's hard to imagine that you will wake up in the morning and the first thought isn't them. It's hard to imagine that you are going to carry on your day and not even think about your breakup. And I think about my breakup obviously because I make content, but on the days that I'm not making content, I'm looking forward to so many other things and it doesn't cross my mind at all. It's so nice. It's not even weird, it's nice. Like, it's a nice feeling. And the way that I got there wasn't because they came back. It wasn't because I got closure. It wasn't because I magically woke up one day and got over it. It was because I changed my mindset, and that's what I wanted this episode to be around. And so I really want you to, and I know it's really hard, and you're probably thinking, I do not want to imagine a day where I'm not thinking about them. Or you are thinking, I want to imagine a day where I'm not thinking about them, but I'm so far in the trenches right now. It is so hard. But if you're going to have that mindset and you're not even going to try a little bit, this is going to be really difficult. So I want you to be able to just take 5, pause this episode, come back to this episode when you've had 5 minutes to sit in your car, on your sofa. You might be sat at your table after you've had some breakfast, after you've had some lunch or dinner, and sit out in your garden when the weather's really nice. Obviously, the weather in the UK at the moment, the sun's shining, but I want you to really sit into that feeling. I want you to sit and think, oh my God, I woke up this morning. Not one day I am going to. I want you to think, I have woken up this morning and I didn't even think about them. Their thoughts didn't even cross my mind. I have a whole day of doing so many amazing things with so many amazing people. Tomorrow, I'm going to spend the day alone and I'm going to be confident to do that. I'm going to treat myself at the weekend. I want you to imagine that you are doing that now. Not, oh, when I just get over this, when I just move out of the house, when I just do this, when I just do this. Think about it now. And it's hard and you feel like you're lying to yourself, but you need to get into that thought process and the feelings and feel the feelings before you actually give yourself the time to get there, because it's almost like having the feelings goal. And I don't think a lot of people really have this, but it's like having a goal of feeling a certain way is a goal. So if you don't want to feel a certain way anymore, that can go on your goal board. I remember saying to my mum on a really bad day that I had, I was at my mum's house and I was sat on the sofa and I think we were both crying. because she was literally like cuddling me and holding me. And I said, I actually don't know if I'm ever not going to feel this way, because the pain feels so raw. It feels so intense. I don't know whether I'm ever going to not feel like this. How am I ever going to live my life if this is how I'm going to feel every single day? And I remember her saying, you're not going to feel like this every day. It's just now. And I was like begging myself not to feel that way. But then I didn't ever really set a goal not to feel that way. So I didn't ever do what I'm doing with you guys now. I didn't really ever sit there and think, right, if one day I am going to not feel like this, I then need to visualize not feeling like this. And this is all this episode really is. It's a visualization technique. It's telling your mind that you have the capability of being able to feel a certain way. If that doesn't happen overnight, that is fine. I'm not saying that all of this is then, you're going to listen to this episode, do this for 5 minutes, then tomorrow you're going to wake up and you break up. It's not going to be intense anymore. I'm not saying that you're going to be able to do this and then overnight, you're going to wake up tomorrow morning, your breakup's going to be done and dusted. That's not what I'm saying. But when you go through a breakup, the heaviness of it will weigh down on you every single day. You deserve little glimmers of hope. You deserve that little 5 minutes of when your eyes are shut and you're thinking, I woke up this morning and this is how I felt and I didn't actually think about my breakup. You deserve those little moments of escapism, because a breakup does not stop just because you've said, oh my God, I can't cope with this anymore. Your feelings don't just go, oh, okay, fine, have 10 minutes. Have a timeout, because this is all you need. A breakup is every single day, especially when you need to go out for work, when you're showing up to work every single day. And I honestly do not know how people show up during their breakups to work. I have no idea. I was incredibly fortunate that I worked for my ex and that I was able to have the time off that I had off, because I genuinely couldn't imagine going to work and having to put on a brave face, because I put on a brave face around my friends and that was hard enough. Actually go to work, and I remember, imagining having to go to the demolition company, and I know for a fact that my boss would have supported me, but I don't think I would have been able to have like 3 months off work. I wouldn't have been able to afford to. So when you think, what's 5 minutes going to do? Try it. Visualize it, feel it, know that it's attainable, know that you're going to get there. And like I said, I know you're going to get there. Why do I know that you're going to get there? Because I've been through it. I've been that person. All you have to do is listen to my earlier episodes of my podcast to know just how heartbroken I actually was, and to realize that you can do it too. You will get there. It just takes time. And when you have this time, this is how I advise you to be spending it. And so I'm just going to start, like I always do, with just explaining, validating, and going through probably what you're feeling right now. You're probably going through what I call an emotional loop of the questions of, why didn't they choose me? Why have I not been chosen? Is there something wrong with me? Should I have done more? And you constantly trying to find a reason as to why the relationship had to end. The one question that will keep you stuck in this loop is, why didn't they choose me? This was heightened very quickly with me because my ex moved on so fast and was so adamant that he wanted to be single. He didn't want to be in a relationship. He didn't want the life that we had. He wanted a completely different life. He didn't want to be in a relationship. He wanted to spend time by himself. He then jumped straight into a relationship. So if you're like me, went through something like that, that question is going to be stuck in your head, playing on a continuous loop, and it will mentally torture you. And you will torture yourself because you will be asking that question. Not only now have you asking that question, you have a comparison. You have somebody to compare to. So not only are you asking, why didn't they choose me? You are asking, what she got that I haven't? And so you are constantly going to war with yourself, and it will keep you in a loop, and you'll go over and over and over. And I remember saying to him, my heart hurts because I don't understand why you've been able to do what you've done. And what you have effectively done is put your worth in someone else's hands. You have put your worth right into the hands of your ex. So not only has your ex had the power over your relationship ending, you having to find a new house, you potentially, like me, having to find a new job, you having to panic every single day and wake up every single day and worry about your finances. They've had power over all of that. They now have the power over your worth because you are asking them continually, what is wrong with you? And you are then trying, you are the one then that is trying to prove something. And as long as you stay in that, and as long as you are in that energy, you are going to feel attached because you are placing your worth on them. Why? Why did you leave me? What's wrong with me? Why can't we be in a relationship? How have you got into a relationship with her? You are placing power in their hands. And unfortunately, some people really also like that. And so they will thrive off that because they're like, wow, I'm the one in the power. I'm the one that's made the decision. I'm the one that's controlling the narrative that everybody is going to listen to. The story that comes out, I'm going to control that. Everything around them needs to be controlled. They get off on the fact that they're controlling everything and you're just adding your worth into the mix of that. And that loop will continue. And in my breakup, that loop continued continually. I woke up every single day asking the same question, like, why? Like, why not me? Why haven't you chosen me? And I think because I would have chosen him in every single lifetime ever when we were together. And I always say, like, you know, I'm a big lover girl, but I would have done anything if he said, you know, we're going to move to a mud hut on the side of the Antarctica and live off the food that we can forage and build fires every night. I'd have been like, okay, if you're going, I'm going. It was like I was 2 feet in with him. And now I've realized that I'm 2 feet in with somebody that I love, not him. Like, he was just showing me the depth of love that I can feel and how love to me is not surface. And I always thought, God, like, being single is going to make me so selfish. And I'm learning through meeting new people and experiencing new things that I'm not. And for ages and ages, I thought this is going to turn me into the coldest person ever. This is going to rip my heart out my chest and it's never going to be replaced. My heart has come back and it is 10 times bigger than it was before because it has so much more value and I have learned so much more going through my breakup that my heart has grown and I'm now able to love with so much certainty. And I never thought I was going to be able to do that. I never thought I would be here. I couldn't find somebody on the internet that was talking about the way that they loved without having to say, I met the love of my life. I wanted to be that space that people could come and I could tell you my breakup story about how I was able to heal from one of the worst breakups I think I'll ever go through in my life and the cruelest, hardest 4 years and not have to turn around and say, and then I met the love of my life and he healed everything. I didn't want to be that person because when I was going through my breakup, a lot of the breakup spaces online were that the end goal was finding the love of the life. And I used to like scroll past them because I'd be like, I don't want to find anyone because I am so in love. That's not what I need right now. I need somebody to tell me that they are going to be able to heal and that it gets better and that they don't lose their ability to love. I was petrified of my heart being tainted. I was petrified that somebody was able to do something so cruel and then that would have an effect on the way that I loved in relationships for the rest of my life. Let me tell you, that is not true. And like I said, my heart has come back and it is 10 times bigger than it was when I was in a relationship with him. And like I said, if you sit in the energy of thinking that you are the problem, you are going to be stuck in that emotional loop. And if you actually delved deeper into what you're trying to gain out of these conversations, you're trying to gain closure for one, you're trying to gain validation. you are trying to get the attention. Your body is craving that like release of endorphins. So you want somebody to say, I still love you. I remember saying to my ex so much, like, I love you. And he'd say it back. And then I'd cling on to it. Because I'd be like, how do you love me if you've walked out on me? And he was putting love you at the end of his messages for a very long time. And I remember him saying, I will always love you. And those little hits were like, oh, I feel better now. Thank God he said that. But I pushed for him. So like, it was like, well, we've been together for 14 years. We've got a house. You're pretty much like an adopted son of my parents. Like, how can you give up all on this? And everything I was saying was so he would give me the validation back that our relationship was worthwhile and he did love me. And all I was searching for was validation. Your brain isn't processing loss. It's craving something that it's used to having. That's why you check their social media. That's why you reread old messages. That's why you reach out and you message even though you know you shouldn't be. All these things are things that your brain is doing as a reaction from the attention and validation you have, not them as a person. Like, that is where the disconnect comes, because it is just a pattern. It's a pattern that you are used to. And the more you understand that, the more you'll get used to the idea of being able to detach from them. And the more and if you don't understand this further, you will attach feelings to. And if you keep mistaking the intensity of that feeling for meaning and the intensity of like, oh my God, I just need this, you aren't going to detach. So I guess you're sitting there thinking, number one, has someone started mowing their lawn? Yes, they have. This is just the beauty of recording in a home studio. Someone mows their lawn on a sunny day, fair play. But you can hear it, and I can see my mic picking up the sound of the lawnmower. So apologies for the lawnmower sound in the background. And number two, you're probably thinking, yeah, Lou, this is exactly how I feel. So how the hell am I going to get over it? And this is where the mindset shift comes in. And you have to practice this over and over and over and over until you think, I don't even want to think about this anymore. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to have to go through this. I don't want to have to sit down and think about this again. Am I really writing this down again? And this is what you need to write down or ingrain in your brain. So if you are near your journal, grab a pen. If you have your phone on you, write it in your note. You need to stop asking yourself why you haven't been chosen. You need to start asking yourself, why on earth do I want to be chosen by somebody who cannot love me properly? Write it down. Say it again. Why on earth do you want to be chosen by somebody who cannot love you properly? Who hasn't got the ability to be able to love you properly, who hasn't had the actual decency to talk to you like you have been together for however many years as a mature adult, have an adult conversation, talk about how they're feeling, talk about their emotions. Why do you want all of that? Why are you asking for somebody who cannot get on an emotional level to get on an emotional level with you? Why are you asking somebody that? Because in that moment when you can ask yourself those questions and get angry about them, because it used to make me so angry because I'd be like, oh my God, Lou, why? Like, why? Why are you asking somebody who is so inconsistent to try and show up for you consistently? Why are you asking somebody who has made you feel like the most anxious person in the world to choose you? Why are you asking somebody who has so easily switched their feelings off for you and somehow got feelings for somebody else so quickly to choose you? Why? Why? This is the hardest part of a breakup, where you have to challenge yourself when you are feeling down. And I was talking about this the other week, where you challenge yourself, you go to war with yourself, and it is hard. It's hard for you to show up and love yourself every day when you are thinking, I am not good enough. But if you flip that on its head and you think, hold on a second, I am good enough. I'm asking somebody who has not got the ability to give me all these answers. And this is the thing, you're not asking them, you're not telling them this. And I talk about the lectures that I gave to my ex about how emotionally unavailable he was, how he couldn't control his emotions, how he had no emotional depth. I relayed this to him constantly. And do you know what? I don't think he cared. I honestly don't think he cared. I think he thought, no, I don't. You don't need all of that. No, you don't need to have that to get through life. You don't need to do that to get through life. And you know what? The biggest revelation that I had, they don't need that to get through the life that they want. If they want a life where everybody around them is going to show up with absolutely zero emotional depth, people that, love surface level, that don't really have emotions, don't really have an understanding of people's emotions, fine. You don't want that in your life. I don't want that in my life. Everybody around me that I have can speak to me about their feelings, about their emotionals on some sort of level. I sometimes think that I gave my ex too much validation in the fact that because he had been able to be in a relationship with me for 14 years must mean that he was capable of loving somebody. And it's not right, and it's not true. It is not true. Just because we were in a relationship for 14 years doesn't mean that the way that we showed up for each other and in a loving capacity was exactly the same, because it wasn't. It was miles. It was hundreds of miles apart. We showed up in completely different ways to do with love. And we felt differently completely about love. Something that was quite uncomfortable that came up when I realized all of this, and it might be uncomfortable for you, and something that has come up for you, is that in the whole of the time that I thought I was like attached to him, I was abandoning myself completely. I wasn't just holding on to him, I was abandoning myself. I was lowering my standards. I was over explaining my needs to somebody who had really what I was talking about and why I was talking about my emotional needs. And more so when I was in a relationship, I was accepting less than I deserved just to stay in a relationship, because I was so frightened about being single, and I was so frightened about doing life on my own, that I would rather have accepted less. And I talk about going back through messages and stuff, and if I just typed in "I'm sorry," I can go back to so many arguments where I have messaged him the next day when he's at work saying, "I'm sorry about getting upset last night. I just thought it would be nice. I just was trying to communicate that I needed a little bit more reassurance, or could I have a little bit more love?" My heart breaks for the version of the person that I was in that relationship, because I didn't realize, and I haven't realized until now, that I lead with love and I lead with my heart. And I think because I was leading with my heart and he wasn't, we never really understood each other emotionally. But that doesn't mean that he wasn't affectionate. He was affectionate in his own way, but that affection just wasn't enough for me. And I think those sorts of things are the things that you have to emotionally connect with somebody, because like I said, I lead with my heart, and I don't think he ever really did. And it was kind of like a realization for me that was kind of like, not everybody loves in the same way, and he and me just obviously didn't love in the same way. And in order for me to keep him, because I was so in love with him, in order for me to be able to do that, to keep him, I abandoned myself completely. And I think when you realize just how much you have abandoned yourself, that's when you start realizing, okay, I can't keep asking these questions. One of the biggest breakthroughs in detachment is understanding that it was never about your worth. It was always to do with their capacity. If you feel like you are asking for too much, it's usually to do with the fact that they probably don't have the capacity to think, feel, show up as deep as you do. Not everybody is emotionally available. Not everybody knows how to communicate. Not everybody is ready for something real. And some people, and I know I'm one of these people, I couldn't deal with that. I wanted them to have the capacity. I wanted them to show up, and I wanted them to be able to communicate, and the next person gets the same treatment. I cannot stress that enough. They don't miraculously just change overnight. People that run away from emotive situations don't then become the most emotionally available person. They find somebody and seek people that also don't have the emotional depth that they have. There is no other explanation in that. It's not because that person's better. It's not because that person's prettier. It's not because that person's not going to challenge them on things. They just have the same emotional depth, and they view things emotionally the same. And you will find somebody that has that emotional capacity that you have as well. It does not matter how hard you work at something. You cannot meet somebody in the same, you cannot build something healthy with somebody that lacks the same capacity emotionally as you. So when people say, God, how have they been able to jump into a new relationship? How's my ex been able to do that? How do they look so happy? Well, they meet each other at the same emotional capacity. That doesn't mean that they've just, like I said, all of a sudden become like the deepest, most emotional person ever. It just means that they've met somebody that has the same emotional capacity. That doesn't mean that you then need to be like the coldest, hardest ice queen or ice king out there. It doesn't mean that. It means that somebody is going to come along and show up with the same emotional capacity, and everything that you battled with within your relationship and throughout your breakup is going to become easy. And you're going to go, I'm really feeling like this. And they're going to sit you down. And I'm smiling because it does happen. Trust me. They're going to sit you down and they're going to say, do you want to talk about it? And you're going to say, yeah. And you're going to feel a little bit weird because you're going to be like, oh, but it's like 9 o'clock at night and you've got work in the morning. And they're going to say it doesn't matter. If you're feeling this way about something, I want to listen and I want to be able to help you through it, and we can come to an agreement, or I can learn from this, or we can compromise on something. And they're going to give you the most healthiest reaction, and you're going to sit there after you've resolved it and go, what the fuck? What the fuck? It happens. Trust me, I've been there. And you go, right. So people do like exist like me then, and people do have emotional capacity. And the funniest thing is watching their reaction, because they're like, is this not, and you go, normal? No, it definitely is not normal. And it's weird because you've gone through so much time thinking, if I was prettier, if I didn't challenge them, if I was easier, if I didn't say that, then, maybe this would have been easier. None of that changes the fact that they couldn't give you what you needed emotionally. None of that changes. The way you look, act, anything, none of that changes how they show up emotionally. And I remember somebody in the pub, and I have taken so much shit off, and you think, God, if I was just a little bit skinnier, or if I was just a little bit more curvy, or if I was just a little less emotional, or if I didn't challenge him on things like that, if I just let him go out and see his friends more, or if I just didn't ask to see him as much at the weekends, if I just said, yeah, do you know what, go and live your life. The sooner you separate your worth from their behaviour, the faster you detach. I'm going to say that again. The sooner you separate your worth from their behaviour, the faster you will detach. Trust me. Their behaviour has got absolutely nothing to do with the way that you look, to do with the way that you show up in life, to do with the way that you love. It has nothing to do with that. It is solely down to the fact they do not have the capacity to show up like you do. And I think people get confused and think that detachment is you waking up one day and being like, oh my God, I don't think about them anymore. Oh my God, literally, like, I don't care at all. It's funny because I still care about my ex. It's weird because I don't have hate for my ex, and And I don't think you ever will stop caring about somebody that you spent half your life with. And I think that's another thing that I really struggled through therapy. Like, why do I still care about somebody who literally dragged me to rock bottom and then took me further and practically drowned me? Like, how do I still care about somebody like that? Detachment isn't stopping caring. Detachment isn't just like you just don't think about them. And like I said, more so now these days, it's so weird. I hear quite a lot about him. It's not just like hearing his name and thinking, oh, I don't fucking care about him anymore. That isn't detachment. Detachment is a lot quieter than that, because anybody can sit there and say they don't care. Anyone can sit there and say they don't care and be like, oh, I'm over it. Like, you could literally sit there, and I bet you any money if someone asked you this weekend, oh, how do you feel about your ex? You could go, no, don't feel anything. You can lie, 100%. Like, that is not what detachment looks like. Detachment is not reaching out when you feel like so sad and so rock bottom. And I remember when a really close family member of mine passed away, and he was like, my ex knew him as well. He was a really close family friend. Like, detachment is not reaching out when you feel super, super sad about something like that, and knowing that the people around you are going to get you through it. You don't need them there to guide you through a hard time. Detachment is letting a thought pass and not feeding it. So if you get information, you know, like, oh, they're doing this or they're doing that, not feeding into that thought and thinking, okay, that thought's there. It's a painful thought, but I'm not going to feed it. I'm going to do something different. And it's small, consistent, little choices that over time, those choices start changing how you feel. Because every single time you don't reach out, you don't go back, every single time you do control that thought, you do control your mindset, you build trust with yourself and you start trusting yourself again, which I didn't do for an incredibly long time. I was at war with myself. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust my gut. I didn't trust anything. I didn't trust anything, anyone, including myself. Like, I just didn't trust anything. And these small little things where you think, oh my God, I'm in the pits of hell today. I feel so sad. I just want to reach out. And you don't. And you go to bed and you wake up and you don't reach for your phone. And you have a whole morning of just you and calm and not overwhelming yourself. You then end that day and think, okay, so I can do this. And you start trusting yourself a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And that's where your power starts to come from. And like I said, there isn't a moment where you wake up and think, oh my God, I'm not thinking about them anymore. This is great. That would be great if that happened. But there does become a turning point when you say to yourself, I can't do this anymore. I have got a harrowing video of myself. And I'm sat in bed and I am like, I physically cannot do this to myself anymore. I am sobbing. I'm in such a bad place. And I'm like, I can't keep doing this to myself. And the more I thought about what I said, it was like I'd stopped saying to him, stop doing this to me. I'd got sick and tired of saying to him, please, can you stop doing that? Please, can you stop liking girls' Instagram photos? Please, can you tell your friends to stop telling me information? Please, can you stop just putting pictures all over Instagram like you're living your best life? Please, can you stop? I stopped putting the onus on them, and I started saying to myself, I cannot keep doing this to myself. I can't keep choosing someone that isn't choosing me. I can't keep waiting around and thinking he's going to have an epiphany and think, oh my God, I've given up 14 years with somebody. I must go back and get her. I had to sit and really get real with myself and think, the only person that is putting myself through hell now, on the days where I don't even, get a Instagram message from somebody saying, do you know what your ex is doing? Or, see if something on Instagram that he's doing. On the days that I actually didn't hear from him at all and I didn't hear any information, I was still going to war with myself because of my thoughts. I was putting myself in these negative loops. I was putting myself in these thought patterns that were like, oh, you know, you're not pretty enough. It's probably because you didn't do this. It's probably because you didn't do that. No one was telling me that. I wasn't getting told that information. I was telling myself that information with no evidence as well. I was just telling it to myself. It was so unhealthy. And the turning point comes when you are like, I literally cannot go on like this. Like, something has to change. My mindset has to change. I have to start believing in myself a little bit. I have to start realizing that it is nothing to do with me. It's to do with their capacity. And in that moment, that is a turning point. You do get that turning point moment, and it's not big and it doesn't come with fireworks. And you don't wake up in the next day and feel miraculously amazing. You wake up the next day reminding yourself that you have to control your mindset. You are the only one living in your head. You have to make that a nice place. And like I said, it's not because it instantly starts feeling better, but you have decided in that day that you deserve to give yourself better. You deserve better. Because you 100% deserve better than your ex, but you deserve to give yourself better. You deserve your head to be a nice place to be in. Because you are the only one that is going to help you. Like I always say, it is you versus you every day. Every day. I still have negative thoughts now and I think, what are you thinking like that for? What are you doing that for to yourself? Do you need to think like that? The answer is no, I don't need to think like that. So why am I thinking like that? Well, I think we can all be in agreement that your self-respect does kind of go out the window when you go through a breakup. When I think back about the amount of time that I spent begging down the phone, begging him face to face, it does kind of go out the window. But I am an honest believer that self-respect helps with detachment. In fact, self-respect creates detachment, because you think, I have got too much respect for myself to go back and ask why again. I've got too much respect for myself to thinking I'm going to wait and I'm going to see how he feels or see how she feels. And I'm just going to wait and wait and wait and wait until they decide to choose me. I have too much self-respect for that. And self-respect, like I've just said, creates detachment. Your power was never in getting them back. You know, when at the start of this that I spoke about your ex holding all the power, your power wasn't in getting them back. You haven't got anything to prove to anyone. The fact that they didn't come back doesn't mean anything. Your power is the ability that you have got and the ability that you have had to be able to walk away from somebody that you loved so deeply, and yet you have learned how to unlove them. You've learned how to detach. You've learned that you are worth so much more than you feel like you are worth. That's your power. Your power isn't in anything else. You don't know, and like I said, and I've done an episode on this, no one wins a breakup. You don't win by winning your ex back. You win by being able to look and think, do you know what? I deserve more than this. I actually am not giving myself the self-respect that I deserve, and I'm going to start, and it's going to completely change everything. And you still wake up and have those mornings where your mind is consumed about the breakup. But now you'll have me in your ear niggling, saying, are you going to start your morning like this? Are you going to practice what we've been talking about today? When are you going to start practicing what we've talked about today? You can start whenever. Like I said, it's not this big, massive, revolutionary, morning where you wake up and think, oh my God, I'm over my breakup, I've completed it. It's not that. It's in every little choice that you decide, I'm better than that. Don't deserve that. I'm not going to put my heart through that. I'm actually not going to burn my hand on the hot stove anymore. It's not a thing. Because I want to learn how to detach, and I have to get control over my mind in order to be able to learn how to detach. So if you take anything from this episode, just remember your self-worth. You do not need to be chosen. You choose yourself. And I know that is easier said than done, especially when you are emotionally tied to somebody else. I get it. Like I always say, I've been there. 1000%, I completely understand. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. I hope you've got some benefit out of this episode. Like I always say, there's actually over 200 episodes on my Patreon. I had no idea, but there is over 200 additional episodes on my Patreon. If you are really struggling and want me in your ear a lot more, then please head over to my Patreon, sign yourself up. It's £5 a month. It gets you 2 extra additional episodes a week. I did a big long episode this week, so it was around 45 minutes. So sometimes I post one big long episode, sometimes I break it into 2. You can also start up a really good conversation with me over there. It's where I'm going to be pushing a lot more people that want to talk to me over there. So if that is something you're interested in, then you can follow the links in all of the descriptions of my podcast episodes, and it will lead you to my Patreon. If you want me to cover anything, then please just DM me. I go through my DMs about once a week, so I'm always available to chat. It just isn't instant with me because I have so much going on, but I do try and catch up once a week-ish on my DMs. So always say like, Lou, can you cover this in an episode, or can you do a Patreon episode about this, and I can send it over to you. If not, guys, have yourselves a glorious bank holiday weekend. I'm 100% going to be eating my body weight in Easter eggs, and I will check in with you guys next week. Look after yourself. Bye.